We're on.
Are we live? All right. This shit's already off the rails. So here's the deal, right? I've got this whole spiel that I do when we open the podcast up, and it's great.
But why
I actually
fucking bother?
It's not fucking opening right now, so I can't read my script. So what I will
do
say,
it from heart. Do it from heart.
A poor craftsman blames his
all right,
tools,
so I'm gonna do this shit from heart. Are you ready? I'm gonna pull what I remember from my memory. So here you go. It's Thursday night.
So good so far.
And official SDGC is now live. So please subscribe on Twitch. And
you can't subscribe.
You know what, dude? I'm really fucking this up. I can't do this. I can't. I'm really nervous.
It's Thursday night.
Welcome to hell.
The hounds are loose.
Some real talent in the room.
The booze is flowing.
Okay, so as everybody can see, we actually have two guests tonight. We've got that fucking Tom Johnson from GameRanx. Tom, how many times have you appeared on this podcast now, Tom?
I think there's like 7 or 8.
Tom and his goddamn diagonal webcam.
It is fucking my Dutch angle.
Yeah.
I like that actually, dude. No, it gives you an air of dramatic air. I feel that the rest of this
that I'm the sinister one.
It's dude, I can tell by your background and the fact that you keep coming in and out of focus that you're the sinister one. Like there's no fucking...
I'm on my super long monitor, so I have to like look way over there because I don't see him in my peripheral vision anymore. And when I do look over there and he's just tilted and saying sinister, it really got me.
Jesus Christ, this is
I'm sorry, I'm not
to be
supposed to talk
lit
until you
only
introduce me,
from
right? I
behind.
actually don't care about that.
Oh, I also want to point out that Tom, Aaron is in chat right now.
Oh, hell yeah,
Aaron,
Mr. Scratty Bones.
Fucking Mr. Scratty Bones in chat. And speaking of Jeff, we got Jeff Grubb from GamesBeat, who I've been wanting to have on here for a while. What's up, man?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. That Aaron in chat has never eaten tacos.
How the fuck do you go your entire life?
That's what we're talking about.
With no tacos.
A viewer?
Yeah, ban him. Get him out of here.
No, he lives in like remote Canada, and like once a week I have to explain like a normal thing to him.
He lives in, I think he's in that halftime zone, right? The halftime zone, like past Eastern time.
Yeah,
he's
like
in
Nova
time.
Scotia. Yeah,
he's on Nova Scotia time. Yeah. Is that a thing? Is Nova Scotia time real? Like
I think it's
he was
Atlantic
telling
time.
me, there was an issue with his housing situation. He made a joke. Well, I made a joke to him about like just go live in the woods, and he's like, yo, no bullshit. I could probably get away with living in the woods for like 6 months to a year.
He lives in Nova Scotia. He does live. He lives in the frozen tundra. That's what Nova Scotia is, right? That's the frozen.
People go missing from there all the time. No one ever notices.
They do. They really do. I want to say something real quick about Jeff here. So as everybody knows,
my performance review.
Jeff is the one who nobly vanquished me in single pizza combat.
Well, did he, or did you really vanquish yourself, Josh?
Oh, she's the one that pointed out you were a fake gamer?
Okay,
yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Absolutely. So I just want to point out that if not for Jeff, we wouldn't have that glorious meme that I became. So really, my pro Overcooked 2 career had to die so that meme could live.
Although I refuse to believe there aren't other pictures of you playing any other video game that don't look exactly the same.
Oh, no, dude, that's my face whenever I'm playing a video game. Like that's just me. I also want to point out though that Jeff actually gave me my biggest moment of anxiety at PAX West, and it had nothing to do with that fucking tournament. It was the night before when we were practicing.
Oh god, yeah, okay, I remember this.
And I treat my very small boy over there very well. And Jeff just like
pointing to his Switch if you're listening to the audio version.
Yeah, Jeff just rips his fucking Switch out of his jeans pocket with just no like no screen cover. He just pulls it out and like slams it on this beer covered table. And he was like, "Let's fucking go." And I was like, "You just gave me heart palpitations." Like Jesus. God.
You know, it's that's the original Switch I've had. It survives for the most part, but the Joy-Cons, I think that is why my Joy-Cons die faster than other people's
John,
Joy-Cons.
Just wait until you see my fucking my Switch at PAX.
Oh god, no, I don't want to see.
There is in the Nintendo.
It's got resin all over it. It's gross.
In the Nintendo World Store in Rockefeller Center,
scratch at it, and this clear stuff comes off.
They have a Game Boy that survived a bombing in Iraq in like the first Gulf War.
Oh, I love that.
And I feel like my Switch is almost on that, like that level. It's ready to go into the case with it.
So I just want to point out, so our friend Imran Khan from Game Informer is in chat, and he says, I don't know what you guys plan to talk about tonight, but if it's not the ending of the new Matthew movie, then you are missing an opportunity.
I mean,
have you guys heard about?
There was no fucking gaming news.
This is the Serenity movie.
Okay. Look, I people have built this up so much that I do want to just go in blind. I mean, okay.
Okay, so
I did only watch what's the one that M. Night Shyamalan just did? Not Glass.
Glass.
The one before
Glass.
Glass.
Split.
But I did go in and watch that just
The
because
decent
I
one.
heard about the twist, and I'm like, oh, that's very exciting to me. And I still had a really good time watching it and like seeing where it was building up to, even knowing that. Ask Imran if that's the same with Serenity.
Oh, so I know what the twist is.
Okay. I mean, will I feel the same way about that, or should I go in
Absolutely
blind?
fucking not. Like no. This is probably the most poorly conceived thing I've since the fucking Virtual Boy.
Oh,
like
but
this
that
is the worst
sounds
fucking
good.
idea.
No, I need to
that-
see this.
When you say it like that, I want it more.
Somebody
Like,
compared it.
So,
Somebody
like,
compared
Ice
it to
Guy
what,
Stone-
what's
John,
the movie
here's
where the
thing,
end?
The Virtual Boy's awesome. So
No.
What's the movie where the end goes to surprise 9/11? Because somebody compared it to that.
Oh,
There's a couple of those. The blue wave, blue ocean.
No, it was
Remember
like
Me?
the Remember Me or whatever.
Remember
Is it
Me.
Kristen
Remember Me is the
Stewart,
best one.
right?
That's one,
Like, yeah, and in the end, like he hangs up the phone and then dies in 9/11.
no, he looks out the window and pans out, and it's fucking. He's at the World Trade Center. And it's
No, stop.
No, it gets better.
God.
And then smash cuts to like his sister in school or something, and they're writing the date on the chalkboard.
What the fuck does that even mean? No. So I got curious. And I read the actual spoiler for Serenity. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but I do because it's so
No,
fucking
John.
ridiculous.
No, don't
I'm
spoil
not
it.
going to.
John.
I'm not going to.
Don't spoil it.
So
Someone on Twitter was saying that it's this movie is on the level of Book of Henry, which have any of you guys seen this movie?
Oh,
I've
yes.
heard of it. I haven't fucking
Book of
seen it.
Henry. This is one that doesn't really have a twist too much. I mean, yeah, it does. It tries
It's just
to.
bad
But
shit.
The guy that directed it was going to direct the upcoming Star Wars Episode 9, and then Book
Not
of Henry.
any fucking
and
more.
now he's not directing that. And that Book of Henry, he said Book of Henry has the same structure as A New Hope, and if you go watch it and try to see that, boy, is that movie just bananas. Maybe this should be a double feature: is Book of Henry and Serenity. I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to watch
Yeah.
Book of Henry and then go right into Serenity.
I'm actually going to give Zach heart palpitations right here. Glorious War in chat says, "What up, guys? Haven't watched you guys live before."
Oh no!
This
Yeah.
is the show.
You
This is
picked
the
a
podcast
great
that's going to
time.
introduce him to SDGC. This
You picked
one.
a great time because the thing is, there was no news this last week. There was no
absolutely
gaming
fucking
news.
not.
The
Yeah.
closest thing to gaming news we had to me was that ridiculous H Bomber guy charity stream, and that's more of
Oh,
a
yeah.
gaming
That owned.
culture than an actual like gaming industry news thing. It's still bad as fuck. Trans rights, y'all.
Yeah.
But like that's it. That's all we got. Like
I
it
mean,
was that and
the one thing I
NPD
like about
stuff.
that is just it tells you how powerful Donkey Kong 64 is because it's so bad. Like
Donkey
it's
Kong
really
64.
fucking
No,
awful.
Donkey Kong
Really bad
64
game,
is a
and that
good
is
game
one of the
now.
main reasons that stream did so well. I mean, H Bomber guy and getting on, AOC and like everyone on there. Yeah, that's great. But they're all on there because he's playing a bad video game. That is
Yeah.
the power of a bad.
Well,
video game.
I think
love
I'm gonna
that.
drop the call now because that's blasphemy to me.
I mean,
Donkey
aren't you
Kong
too busy
64
collecting every single banana on the face of the planet to actually be here? So
Yeah. H Bomber
Okay.
guy made Donkey Kong 64 a good game now, so
That's
it's,
fair.
It's
Okay.
done.
I can
It's
see.
good. It's good now.
It's canon now.
Yeah. It's-
So interestingly enough, Zach actually did come up with some stuff to talk about tonight due to the lack of fucking video
Yeah.
game news.
Yeah. So here's
he
my
doesn't
idea.
like it.
Yeah, I
Jeff
don't.
explain
So
how to
here's
kill
my
an
idea,
economy?
guys. Inspired by AOC saying that Nintendo 64 is the best console of all time,
Oh, it's
I'd
not.
like us all.
not.
I would,
Terrible.
hang
It's
on.
the worst console.
It's
Hang
bad.
on,
It's real
I'd like us all
shut the
to
fuck up.
pick a hill. I'd like us all to pick a hill to die on. We're going to pick our favorite consoles of all time, and we're gonna have to pick sides, and we're going to eliminate it, King of the Hill, battle royale style, if you will.
Jesus. This
oh man, my little cousin's gonna want to watch this now if it's a battle royale.
Yeah,
It
well,
is- yeah.
that's gonna be
real
a bad
bad.
fucking choice,
It
isn't
does
it?
cost
This is a
$50
bad-
to participate. So.
This is
I got the hookup on free V-Bucks, so anyone wants to hit me
Oh,
up.
great. Great.
The social security number is all I need.
So do we feel like we've got enough diversity of opinions to make this actually?
Oh fuck yes, because
I
I'm
have
not
no
going.
idea what systems you guys are gonna pick. Can we just do
Oh.
this real quick? Because I might
Yeah,
have.
let's
to
go
change
around.
mine.
Let's go around the table. John, what's
Alright.
your favorite console, bud?
the
Super
fate
Nintendo.
fucking of course it's a Super Nintendo, dude. Like, and I'll take it a step further, and I'll say that not only the Genesis was a bad console, the Genesis was ass. Like the
Wow.
Genesis was fucking
I don't
ass.
disagree with
It had a few good games. It had a few good games, but generally The controller sucked. It felt like cheap plastic. The games were just, I mean, you had fucking like Shining Force, which was good, and you had Sonic, which was fine. But other than that, dude, like there was an X-Men game I remember that was good in Streets of Rage.
taking
That's
that
all
political
the fucking
ad
things
Take
I've
approach.
everything John just said and apply it to the Nintendo 64, and that's
Absolutely.
how I feel.
So I agree with you. But my favorite console of all time is the Super Nintendo. And there's
I
really
love
no
John
fucking debate.
taking
Keep going around the
political
table because I
approach.
need to know if I need to change mine. Who's next?
Yeah.
All right, Zach is next.
Xbox 360.
It's so bread and butter.
I'm very young, John.
You are.
Derek.
You are. By the way,
GameCube, motherfuckers.
All right.
no, that's a
So far-
solid fucking choice. I'm okay
I'm not
with
surprised.
that.
So
And I
far by
will
anything
defend
so
that
far.
to the death.
Tom, come on, hit it.
Dreamcast.
All right, I like
Ooh.
that.
You are now
Okay.
Lena's favorite person on
No,
this
that's
entire
zesty. That's
show.
spicy. I like it. Jeff, what about you?
Nintendo 64. No, I'm joking.
No.
I almost want to do it because I feel like I could defend it, but I'm going to go with does it have to be a home console? Because I was going to go with the Game Boy Advance.
Go
No,
handheld.
oh,
Yeah,
that's a
Game Boy
solid
Advance. These are
fucking
good
choice.
ones.
I almost went
You
with
know why
DS.
it's solid? Because it's the best console.
That is a
It's
great fucking.
it's actually the best one.
It's actually the only way to play Final Fantasy VI on the go.
Yeah, I mean,
It's the
got
only
like
fucking way.
I was gonna go with
Yes, it was a good time for all those kinds of
But
things.
John,
like
there's
this.
a port on my Android phone. I've seen it. I should grab it, right?
We don't fucking talk about the. We don't talk about the mobile.
See, now I'm hesitant. I feel like if we're allowing handhelds, I feel like the DS.
See, if someone
Yeah,
picked the
they're
Game Boy
awesome.
Advance, I was going to go with the DS instead. Almost.
Well, the DS can play Game Boy Advance games, right? If
True,
I remember
yeah,
Well,
but
right.
let's
I
talk
don't wanna,
about
like-
their library, right? Game Boy Advance doesn't count Game Boy and Game Boy
Yeah,
Color.
if I say
games.
PS2, I don't get to say.
I mean, you can include.
PS1.
I think
Yeah.
that's included in there as like a footnote, but I don't think that should be the main thrust of your argument. If you're
Right,
trying to make your
right.
main thrust like, oh, it also includes this entire library, no one's going to want to like listen to that. It's like that's not as convincing as saying it had good original games.
All right,
Well, so-
I am going to right now change
Oh shit. Okay.
because
What?
I adore the Dreamcast with all of my heart. It's not going to win this, and I know it.
You gotta bring
know
out the
I
big
like
guns.
it, even though there are horrifying flaws with it, and I feel that in this fight, the PlayStation 2 needs a champion.
You're right.
Wow.
All right.
He's
so
right,
that's actually that's a safe choice. Like the PlayStation 2 is a good fucking choice. Like I'm
How
not
does
gonna
this
lie.
work?
Like
Someone tell
So
me the
I
rules.
think so I think the way this war works, because there's so few of us here, we need to pick the two obvious losers and start from there, and we're gonna do take sides. So
I'm
from
okay
the
with that.
NES to PS2 to the Game Boy Advance to the GameCube to the Xbox 360, we need two weak guys. I'm thinking Xbox 360 is maybe a little bit low for you guys.
I mean,
I don't know. I almost think it's. I mean,
I feel like it's too recent for me to actually look back and effectively look.
okay.
I could. You get me on the right day of the week, and I'll be like, yeah, Xbox 360 probably is the best.
Well, so
system.
it sounds like
Jesus
I'm off to a good start.
So here's the
Hold
thing,
on a minute,
Xbox
guys,
360
wait, hold on.
you've got to remember that
I've gotta
Xbox
say- real
360
quick,
includes
I've gotta say that-
multiplats.
Hold on, Derek, wait. I've got to get this off my chest.
Yeah.
I just got super confused because we literally just had like 50 new subs on our YouTube channel. And,
John,
and
why are you always
no.
bragging in here?
I'm bringing this up for a point because I'm clicking through them all, and then I see somebody commented on our Resident Evil review, and it said, "Great review, but where are all the hot chicks?" And I don't fucking know what it means. What does that even fucking mean?
It means that is somebody who has never once touched the fair skin of a maiden. That's what that is. The kind of guy who comments on YouTube videos about, oh, where are the hot girls at, is somebody who is going to die very alone, covered in grease,
I am
and very
I am-
angry about it.
I am
You're on the
Angry is
internet
the-
looking through video game
Yeah.
reviews for
I'm
pretty ladies. You might be
Angry
enough.
is the key part of that.
Someone
I'm
needs to
hot
teach you how
enough.
this whole thing works.
Okay.
Anyway, please
So
continue.
are-
I'm sorry.
Okay, so the weakest things on here, what? The SNES? SNES is probably one of the weaker offerings. Is that what we're? Is that
I'm
what
How about
no
this?
fuck no. What the hell is the matter with you?
Let's.
This is for the first
I don't know
round
that
of
we're
debate.
not going to agree that there's a weak offering in here.
yeah, I feel like maybe should we just try to like.
Everyone make your arguments. I feel.
Yeah, I mean, can we try to like rank them? Like,
Yes.
like
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll
Please.
start because I fucking take umbrage with the fact that somebody would suggest that the Super Nintendo is the weakest offering. So what I would say is that it's actually the strongest offering because Super Nintendo SNES games hold up much better than say like PlayStation 1 games, right? I think we can all agree on that, right? Like Parasite
I
Eve.
dislike that argument, but you keep going for a bit.
Okay, I will. No. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. So games like Dino Crisis, Resident Evil, all the Final Fantasy games, like visually, they don't fucking age well at all. Like they look like fucking hammered ass. That's what they look like right now, right? Super Nintendo games still look beautiful. I can still play Chrono Trigger or Final Fantasy VI or Super Punch Out or Super Mario World and appreciate the beautiful pixel art. I mean, those games literally drove the industry forward. Like Super Mario World was, I think, more than Super Mario 3, just a platformer that really drove that genre forward. Just like Final Fantasy 6 did things for, JRPGs that hadn't been done before. And games are still trying to emulate what that game did. I mean, the fucking bad guy wins halfway through. You can't fucking beat that. Games like fucking Super Punch Out, which I consider to be one of the best sports games of all time. What's that? Wait. What was that?
You were wilding
Okay,
out.
give me.
It's really cool that we've already decided 5th place. It's really cool.
No. So there was more fucking excitement about the Super Nintendo mini console than there was about any other console last year. People fucking, and right now, what are people clamoring for on the Switch? What are people clamoring for on the Nintendo Online service? They want fucking Super Nintendo games. That's what people want.
They actually want
more money than
too. So
Yeah.
Well, they do. But people want fucking Super Nintendo games. I would say that the Super Nintendo is still, to this date, not only the best console, but the most influential console in the entire fucking industry. And I don't see that ever changing.
What if you took all those things you said and made it portable?
God fucking damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also had the best port of Tony Hawk 2.
That's
what?
true. Tony Hawk 2.
The best port of
That's
Tony Hawk
true.
2 was on Game Boy Advance.
That game was
I
fucking
love that
sick
fucking game
on
so
Game
much,
Boy
God.
Advance. Although, Jeff, I do have a question. Are you talking, I'm assuming you're talking the SP with the backlight.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to consider the whole line, I think. But definitely the SP. We'll get into Game Boy Advance in a sec. I do want to address your point about the graphics from Super Nintendo to the first generation of 3D graphics. It's an unfair comparison because it's the first generation of 3D graphics, and it we reset a lot of our knowledge about how to make games with that. So it's a more fair comparison is Intellivision and fucking Atari, because they were starting from scratch again about how to make visuals in this 3D polygonal space. And so when you think about it that way, it's okay, they don't hold up as good as the best, the end of the line for 2D visuals. But, compared to what we were getting at the beginning of 2D visuals, the first 3D visuals actually aren't as bad as we think they are. It's just they were still in the learning process. Now, does that affect our opinion when we're actually sitting down to play them? Maybe not, but I feel like it's a little bit unfair of a comparison just between those two. Okay, yeah, Game Boy Advance. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said about the Super Nintendo. I just think the Game Boy Advance kind of was this this evolution of that same idea. You could put it in your pocket. The SP does come out, makes it this clamshell design where you really could take it anywhere. You had the light, you could play it anywhere. And then it just, it had so many good games. We already mentioned some of the remakes. The best way to play Final Fantasy VI Portable is on that system.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every Super Nintendo Mario game, I think all the Mario games are on there, and they're really good remakes.
Well,
People
no,
talk about-
the Super Mario 3 remake on Game Boy Advance. I love that fucking game.
Right, exactly. And I think people talk about Super Mario All-Stars about being a pretty good one. They're just forgetting about the one that they put on the Game Boy Advance. It looks so good, and it plays
I'm changing
exactly
my vote.
how you want
I'm
it
going
to.
with Game Boy Advance. No, Jeff's right. I'm changing my vote.
The cast is on there, and then there's also there's Minish Cap is on there, and
Advance Wars.
Advance Wars, God, and
Golden Sun's on
multiple
there.
good Metroid games. Golden Sun, these really crazy RPGs. It's the system where people realize that Japanese RPGs are supposed to be on a portable handheld. What are we doing? What are we even doing? They should be on handhelds.
Metroid Zero Mission was what got me through my first Iraq deployment. I had my fucking Game Boy.
That game owns so much. It's one of the best remakes ever, Metroid Zero Mission. And it's
I had my fucking
this system is full of that kind of stuff.
Dude, I had my fucking Game Boy Advance in my goddamn rucksack when I was going on a patrol. That's how much I fucking love that console. You're right. I'm changing my vote.
You could just keep going too. There's Mario and Luigi. There is all of the Castlevania Metroidvania games. There's 3 of them on the system.
I will give you this
Yes.
hot take: Aria
Circle
of
the
Sorrow is the best Castlevania. It's better than Symphony of the Night.
I like Circle of the Moon best, and I know a lot of people hate Circle of the Moon, but I think that's the point. Is if you played one of these games on the system at that time, you could easily feel that way, that it's better than Symphony of the Night. But I mean,
I think there was a lot of hate given towards Circle of the Moon because it came out before the SP was out, Jeff,
Right.
and you
That
couldn't
was the
fucking
big
play
issue.
it
You couldn't see it.
because you couldn't see it. That was the problem with that game.
But then WarioWare Inc. and Rhythm Heaven and the Game Boy Advance Pokemon games, and then you can play all the Game Boy Color and Game Boy games on there. I don't like that the goddamn games stick out 3 inches, but whatever, you can still play them on there. I don't know. It's really it's the one system where I'm I want to like not just go back and like play those games. I want to go back to like when I was playing those games.
Yeah,
It
he wants to go sit there with a fucking worm light, and he wants
Yeah.
to.
I did have a worm light for the original Game Boy Advance.
A little code
You
red.
bet your ass I did.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
Listen,
right,
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good. I mean, I remember like going to like Ozfest. I had tickets to go to Ozfest, and I'm like, this is like the third year in a row I'm going to Ozfest. I just don't feel anymore. I'm gonna sell this ticket to a scalper and go buy a goddamn Game Boy Advance game and sit in this Taco Bell and play it. And I'm pretty sure it was one of the Castlevania games. And I do not regret that decision at all. It's good Taco Bell too.
All right,
That's
Zach,
the Game Boy Advance.
Is there such a
Zach,
thing as
why don't you
bad
drive us
Taco
forward?
Bell?
It's true.
you know, we've been talking about Nintendo so long. Let's keep it going. Derek,
All right. All right.
GameCube. Pitch me on your shitty cardboard box with a handle. I don't know.
All right. So
You
first
watch your
off,
fucking
it's interesting that you use cardboard to describe it because
mean, it does
cardboard
have-
is easily destroyed, and the GameCube was indestructible. If we built tanks and aircraft out of GameCubes, then we would win every war ever because nobody would be able to damage them.
Also, it's the
actually-
best Mario game.
I
Yeah.
actually had somebody in the Marine Corps swing their GameCube at me and
Wait.
clock me up the head with it, and it fucking hurt. Like, and they were holding it by the handle. Like, dude, that shit's legit.
Well, it's cool to see
what the
one
fuck
person
did
use
you
that
say?
handle.
I agreed with Tom before I thought
Tom,
about
what the fuck did you just say?
Sunshine is not the fucking best. Sunshine
Oh,
is really
Jesus
underrated.
Christ, no, it's not. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Sunshine is really underrated, and I think it gets more hate
fucking
than it should. Oh man,
Jeff is so fucking done. He left. Jeff is. I'm getting his there.
Okay, I'm back. I just
game's
wasn't
not
able. I needed a second.
Tom, the game's not even fucking finished. The game's not even done. They didn't finish the game, Tom.
Which is
fucking
interesting
great.
considering how much content is actually
Yeah.
in the game, like for
But
being
they
an
didn't finish
unfinished
the
game.
The
An,
game's
an unfinished game where the unfinished part is bigger and better than a lot of other. Look, Sunshine is not the best Mario game. It's really
Sunshine is
good.
better than Mario Odyssey.
It's
What
underappreciated.
the fuck is wrong?
Okay, it's
All right,
not
Tom,
a bad Mario game, but you have to stop saying
I
this.
can't be on your team, man. You're hurting.
Wow.
You're hurting me.
See, a good Mario game could take you far. That like you could make an argument for Nintendo 64 based on the fact that it has Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and like what do you really need other than like a bunch of really good Nintendo games
Tom,
and then like GoldenEye and
Any
Mario Kart and all
argument
that shit.
I make is now going to be people are going to be like, "Wow, he's got some good points," but Tom did say that Sunshine is the best Mario.
Tom is fucking
so
trolling now,
GameCube's
and we
gotta
all know he's
go.
no,
no,
Control it.
I'm dead serious. It's the only Mario game I like legitimately love.
But here's the
How much have
thing:
you smoked tonight? How much have you smoked tonight?
GameCube,
Surprisingly little. It's more the Steel Reserve, probably.
GameCube had this fantastic mix of actually good third-party exclusives, multiplats, and Nintendo first-party exclusives. I mean, you got to talk. This is the console that gave us Resident Evil 4 and the Resident Evil remake, which are the two best Resident Evil games of all time as of this exact moment in time. We'll find out more about that tomorrow.
Yes,
You've
you will.
got, we've got a bunch of really fantastic and underappreciated Nintendo first-party titles that never got re-released, like the original Luigi's Mansion, amazing. Sunshine, not the best, but underrated.
The best Zelda game.
Path of Radiance, the best Fire Emblem game. I'll put that down right
Wait,
there.
hold on.
Fire Emblem Path of Radiance.
Whoa, hold on.
No, it might be the best Zelda game. It's the
Wind Waker's the
Wind
best Zelda
Waker?
game.
Wind
I
Waker?
mean, Breath of the
can
Wild.
go-
Yeah,
was
no,
there.
I
Fucking
might be.
Tom.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't like Breath of the Wild. I need
Breath of the
Wind
Wild is
Waker-
the time-
Wind
it
Waker-
managed to make Majora's Mask the second worst Zelda
Wind
game.
Breath of the Wild
Waker,
is fucking amazing.
no.
And-
Wind Waker belongs in discussions about the best Zelda games. It's
I
really
will
goddamn
agree with
good.
Derek on that.
You get stuff like Eternal Darkness, like really fantastic
rules.
horror title, amazing. It kills me to never come back. You get weird stuff like Custom Robo, which will never come back for some reason, but I love Custom Robo to death. I will stay
What
in that
Animal
game
Crossing?
until I'm 80. Right, brought us Animal
Crossing's a really
Crossing.
good point.
Oh, I
Um,
fucking forgot Animal Crossing was on the GameCube.
Yeah,
Shit.
it started on the GameCube.
Where it
My-
debuted
my
in
understanding, right?
the US.
No
anyhow,
shit,
yeah.
yeah.
Was there
you're
a
fucking
64
right.
version?
In
before?
Japan. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I did
It
not
was a
know that.
DD game, right?
I learned
Yeah,
a thing.
I think so. I don't know for sure.
Derek,
Did,
why-
did Pikmin start on the GameCube?
Yes.
Yes, and in Pikmin, right? We're talking
Pikmin
weird,
owns. Pikmin and
experimental.
Pikmin 2. Yeah.
Some of the
Why
best
aren't you
sports
talking
games.
about Jungle Beat though? That's the
Oh,
best.
Jungle Beat's
Jungle
good
Beat,
too.
dude.
Jungle
I'll
Beat's really good.
I'll give love to Jungle Beat.
I can't believe. Has anybody mentioned Rogue Squadron yet?
Yeah,
Rogue Squadron
God,
2
I
and
like the
3.
Rogue
Squadron was my
games on
fucking
that.
Incredible.
So you know what the thing is with the GameCube is you got all these like names that when you say you're like, yeah, that owns, and for some reason it still feels like it doesn't have like a lot of the gaps filled in, and that's probably just because
let's
like
talk
that was like
sports
one of
titles,
the worst
right?
consoles
NBA
for.
Street, SSX Tricky, Need for
you're
Speed
right.
Underground, Tony Hawk. Like,
Let's
you
not
know,
forget, Derek. Let's not forget. This was the console that introduced us to Resident Evil 4. That was originally
right?
a GameCube
That's one of the
exclusive.
first fucking things I said, John.
Is it? Okay.
It is.
You know what? You know what? I
Literally
can't
the
fucking
first thing
tune
he
you out.
was reading the email. Give him a break. Come
Yeah.
on.
Jesus Christ.
The two Beautiful Joe games, which are underappreciated, underloved,
Mhm.
fucking amazing. Some of Capcom's best work, honestly, came on the GameCube in general.
Did Power Stone ever drop on the GameCube, or was that just
it
a
did
Dreamcast?
not. That was, I think, just Dreamcast. I will stand PN05 to the ends of the earth, which was such a weird.
I was gonna make a
random
random
action
action
game.
joke, and then I figured no one would care. or
No,
get it.
I love that game. It's weird. It's hard to learn, but I love it.
I just want to point out, Derek.
Destroy
Jeff
All
in chat-
Monsters
not-
Melee, the best
Hold on.
Godzilla game ever made. Like,
Real quick, Jeff in chat, not Jeff Grubb, but Jeff, podcast Jeff in chat is talking shit about Resident Evil 4. I need everybody to spam him in
I'm not
chat
gonna.
immediately,
What's
please.
he even saying? Like, it's such a good game.
He says
You can't
Resident
move and
Evil
shoot.
Bore. Resident Evil
It's
Bore.
one
That's
of
what he
the
says.
most
you know what? I
immaculately
played that Resident Evil 2
designed
game and
games of
reviewed it.
all
I still
time.
like Resident Evil 4 better, but that's
What the
Really?
fuck?
I had to do
You're gonna
capture.
get mad at me for
Interesting.
preferring an action game. It's just me. Don't get mad at me for having
No.
tastes.
Resident
Look,
Evil 2, I think, is the better game. But
Where
Resident
you
Evil 4 is a
think
close
where
second.
you think 4 fits in the horror versus action? Like, it obviously
I mean,
toes that line very well, and it's one of the most immaculately designed like games of all time in its sphere. Excuse me, and it's
For me,
definitely a
Resident
horror
Evil 4
game.
is the action Resident Evil. I mean, I know it got more action with 5 and 6, but
Yeah.
like they were like, oh, the action worked. That's why
They
we're
were
going to go more
dumb.
in that direction.
RE4 was
But
actually
Resident Evil 2 is
tense.
actually the best balance between the two. It's got the, it's still got a lot of survival horror stuff. You are constantly running out of ammo, but when you are aiming your weapon, boy, that feels good. It feels like you have to get those headshots. When
Oh,
you
yeah.
miss- and then when you miss and that bullet goes right into the wall, and you're like, man, I really needed that bullet to hit something.
Yeah,
And
I get
it's
so
super
mad.
scary and intense, and that owns. Even if it's like not exactly the Resident Evil I'm looking for, I can recognize that it fucking owns. It's a really
It's
good game.
fucking great.
Yeah.
What a
But
great
yeah, we don't have to go too far off that.
So, hey-
Resident Evil 4 is like up there for me, so high. It's just
Let's
such
also
a
talk
great
about
experience
Super
at that
Monkey
time,
Ball,
and it's
y'all.
Still great.
Let's also
Let's
talk about
wrap
Super
up-
Monkey
Wrap
Ball.
up your motherfucking pitch.
I would if the GameCube would run out of amazing fucking games.
Oh, we got to let him go. We got another hour to fill
yeah.
with this shit, Derek.
I mean, is
Dude.
GameCube what's GameCube missing? Like, it's like it didn't have like Square Enix support,
It didn't
right?
have
from
a lot
the
of
start?
RPGs.
But it had
at
some
all.
really good RPGs. It only had a
Right.
couple.
What?
Like Baten Kaitos was really, really good. I thought.
well, no, I'm sorry. It did
Um,
have Crystal Chronicles. You're right.
Yeah. Well, that's like an action RPG. It's kind of weird, but I really liked it. To the point I'm super excited for the re-release. And Fire Emblem again. Like we passed over the fact that,
Right,
that Path of Radiance is the
Right.
best Fire
Path of
Emblem of
Radiance
all
is very
time.
good.
Like GameCube had games for every genre. It had some of the best games released in any genre, and it was the last time Nintendo, maybe up until now, we'll see how things go, but it was the last time that we saw like such a consistent mix of good first party games, good third party multiplats, good third party exclusives that were like genre defining in each of their own ways, to the point that people really want to go back and replay all these games and kind of can't, which is really frustrating. Like GameCube has almost more lost gems than any other system I can think of off the top of my head. So
And if I'm not mistaken, that's also the point where Nintendo sales started kind of taking a nosedive, right? Like that's when.
yes, but that had a lot to do
Struggled, I
basically.
would say, not necessarily.
yeah,
nosedive,
it
struggled.
had to
Well,
do.
okay, yeah, that's a better way to put it.
It basically had to do with the fact that the PlayStation 2 destroyed everything. I mean, neither the Xbox, the original Xbox,
Yeah.
or the GameCube did well that generation when compared against like what the PlayStation 2 was doing.
Right.
And the GameCube, I mean, it suffered from a lot of imaging problems at a time when the gaming audience was very immature and very like struggling to look self-serious. That's why to this day the jokes about it being purple and having a handle and looking like a lunchbox, like people actually meant that back in the day. That
Yeah,
was
it was
a
very
bad
much a time
thing.
where you could say something like, "Oh, that game looks kiddie, so I'm not going to play
Yeah,
it." And
people
no one
were
would
like,
be
"Oh, Resident
"What
Evil 4
fuck
is the
wrong with
only
you?
M-rated
Grow
game
up."
the GameCube has," and it's like it doesn't change the fact that Metroid Prime is better than just about anything you had on any other system at the time.
I'll never
you
forget
know.
the Mark McDonald review quote for that. It's like the best game from 5 years in the future. And then you could play that game 5 years later and be like, yeah, this still feels like it could
You
be
can play that
of the
game
year, next
now,
year.
and it's still
Absolutely.
an amazing
Fucking
experience.
It's still just such a fucking eminently replayable game.
yeah.
How much
GameCube
don't you
is
like
full of these
Metroid Prime,
timeless
Tom?
gems.
I think it's fine.
God, you suck.
Tom,
You know what?
I don't
You know
like
what?
Metroid.
You know what? Let's hear what Tom does like. Tom, what about your console? Talk about your console. Why don't you sell this on that shit?
It's got fucking Shadow of the Colossus. It's got fucking
yeah.
Eco.
It's got the
fucking, it's got Final Fantasy X. It's got 3 GTA games that basically made modern open world games. It's got Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. It's got Okami. It's got all those God of War games.
dude. It ran Shadow.
What if I told you
Colossus
the God of War series is bad until the most recent game?
Yeah.
But
got
everything
fucking
he's saying, though, it's
Katamari.
like, man, that is like
Yeah.
every big game now. Like all of today's gaming, when you think about like the biggest games in the world right now, they were all defined on the PS2. Like, they
Kingdom
were all-
Hearts,
yeah.
Psychonaut, like
Kingdom Hearts is not a positive.
No.
Kingdom Hearts is 110% a positive, Jeff. Like, dude, like
If once you go over 100, it
Did
wraps
you
back
all
around
see
to
that
just be
video
10%.
on
No,
Kotaku about how Kingdom Hearts 3 can't be reviewed as
How
the
it's
first
an
unreviewable
unreviewable
game?
it's an unreviewable game.
It
Well,
is
I mean, here's the thing, though, right? Like, if you're going into
Everything
Kingdom
I
Hearts
feel about
3
that
without-
series.
I love Kingdom Hearts games, and I don't know what the fuck they're about anymore. Like, I honestly have no happening,
I had
but
to
I just
write-
know that they're fun.
I had to write a 2,800 word script for a video for Kingdom Hearts last week,
Ooh,
and
Jesus.
I felt myself descending into madness.
Imran makes a really good point that Devil May Cry 3 is on the PlayStation 2, and that single game
That's
is
a perfect
really easy.
video game.
That's a good
Dante
one.
is like this whole bisexual disaster dream.
On
that-
the
that.
flip side, I would also argue though that Devil May Cry PlayStation 2, which brings that system down a few notches, because Devil May
I'm-
Cry 2 is a fucking disaster.
It's weird because they
They
didn't
didn't
make it
shit.
2. They skipped from 1 to 3. It was really weird.
It was
The
real.
fucking thing about Kingdom Hearts is it came out after
Jeff is
so
still
many
on
good
Kingdom
video
Hearts.
games, and they're like, let's put the camera on the triggers. There's a dual stick right there, you stupid idiots. You dumb motherfuckers. It's
What,
right
would they,
there.
what did they even use the right stick for?
God, I hate that.
Because it was
game.
standard
I
on the
don't-
PS2. It's
Yeah,
not like the
I don't-
PS1 where you could make
Right.
that argument and that excuse. On PS2,
And
that
like
shit
so
was
many
there
games
day
came out
one.
with like at least cameras that made some sense, and that's like just the start of my problems with Kingdom Hearts. But fuck that camera.
I'd argue
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid 2 is better than most video games in existence.
No.
Metal Gear Solid 2 is amazing
Like,
because
like-
it's one of the only games that makes it starts off being the smartest fucking game in the world. And then if you're like smarter, it starts to be the dumbest fucking game in the world. And then when you smoke a bunch of weed and play it again, it becomes the smartest fucking game in the world again. And
And
somehow
then
it
there's the part
managed
where
to
the president pats him in the genitals too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But somehow
I,
managed to-
really,
You fucking fight the president on top of Federal Hall with a sword.
it's
it
fucking,
somehow manages to accidentally be sort of correct on
It-
like the whole
not
information age
forget-
thing,
let's
but
not forget-
completely by accident.
the president is literally Dr. Octopus in that fucking game. He's got the metal arms that come out of his back. He's beating the shit out of fucking Raiden. And wasn't there a whole playable section of the game where you're literally nude and do you guys
Yeah.
remember? Do you guys
When
remember
you
when you,
dodge, he does a cartwheel
when
and
you do the
covers his
flip?
nuts.
He's like covering his dick. He's like covering
Yeah.
his junk up. Yeah.
And
He
you
doesn't cover
couldn't
the
do
taint.
that.
Very
You
important.
couldn't-
It doesn't
Android.
cover the taint.
Only
I have
the
a
te-
Raiden
yeah.
Android, and he comes with a naked body of him
If
covering.
this
his
was
dick.
if this was made on modern systems the way that he cart rolls, you would have seen complete butthole coverage. Like it's
It would've
it
been
was
like Nier
not-
Automata all over again.
Video games
only-
are awesome.
that's the space we're in now. That's the thing I remember most about Metal Gear Solid 2 more than anything is that conversation between Raiden and the AI that he thinks is the Colonel near the end when it starts going fucking wacky.
everyone
And he
remembers
start-
that.
and,
It's
like-
amazing.
And like that, yeah, no, like and like he would start calling you like every 5 seconds, and when you pick up, he's like talking about, you know, he's like
My wife left me and I need a place to stay. Like-
yeah, I had my girlfriend over for dinner last night. She told me about an incident that had happened on her way home from work. I listened and just like, and then he had that fucking speech when he's like, I hear it's amazing when the purple
The purple
stuff
stuff,
worm
flapjaw
and-
worm.
flapjaw worm and Harry Carey sauce or something like that.
I need
like,
scissors 61.
It's
Now that I
so
think
good.
about it, Metal Gear Solid 2 is fucking amazing.
It's the
Yeah.
best. It's the best.
Now that I'm really so Tom, so hold on a minute. Like, is that your whole argument for the PS2?
What?
It sounds like it.
Because I'm not 100%.
It has some of the best, like video games as they are now, are hugely, like directly influenced by the PlayStation 2. Like of all of that
I do find that a
generation,
convincing argument, by the way. I think
of
that's
that
pretty compelling.
generation,
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one
okay.
that has had like how many things holdovers aside from live and like online stuff from the Xbox do you see when you look at video games now? How much stuff directly from the GameCube do you see in games now?
I mean,
as
good
it's
opposed
games.
to PS2.
It's just,
Well, I mean-
no, he's got a point. there.
Yeah, he
Like,
does.
I mean, the
There's some
PS2.
really good PS2 games.
If I remember correctly, it's the highest selling
there were
console. It's like
120 million of the
fucking
fuckers
million
out.
units sold.
150.
What was that,
whatever,
Derek?
PS actually had more, but
I don't
yeah,
remember.
for
It's a
home
lot.
consoles.
It has a big
Okay,
number.
you know what, I'm just talking like home consoles. But,
Yeah, no,
but I
you're,
get,
you're right, totally.
okay, yeah.
And it had
Yeah.
everything. It had RPGs. It had like Final Fantasy 10, 12.
It had every
fucking-
RPG ever.
I can't believe, Tom, I can't believe you didn't mention Dark Cloud.
I didn't mention Dark Cloud 2, which is one of my favorite video
Dark
games of all
Cloud
time.
2 is fucking great. That game is fucking, that I love it. You didn't mention, you didn't
John?
mention Shadow
Zone
Hearts.
of the Enders.
Oh fuck.
Shadow Hearts, dude.
Shadow Hearts.
John, you're here to stand for the Game Boy Advance. You can't help the competition, my
But
dude.
the PS2
He's
is
making
such a
some
good fucking
points.
system when you really think about it, Zach. Like, it had so many good fucking
Scott,
So
games.
what you're saying is you are now abandoning Game Boy Advance for the PS2. You have the weakest fucking spine, John.
Who remembers
am
Robot
now-
Alchemic Drive?
I am now changing my vote to the PS2.
He changed every time so far.
I
It's
am now
amazing.
changing it to the PS2. At first, it was it was the Super Nintendo, but I went with the Game Boy Advance, and then I went, you know what? I switched it to GameCube, but now Tom has got me so compelled for the PS2 that
The thing about the PS2 is that it's all those games did define modern gaming, and they are still around. But I don't like a lot of that stuff, actually. Like, a lot of that stuff's like kind of boring to me. I mean, not
Like
to most
cameras
people.
on the
I feel very
triggers.
alone on a lot of that stuff. But like, you'd be like, okay, yeah, we're still doing open world games like they did, on the PS2 with Grand Theft Auto or whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. Give me the weird indies, and then give me the weird shit that Nintendo's doing, because I'm actually going to prefer that for the most part. And I do think, yeah, maybe GameCube didn't have all that like multi-generation defining video games in the way that PS2 did. But
only
it
'cause
has
they never
that,
got
it still has
re-released.
that personality that I feel like the PS2 does not have. PS2 was like, if you're gonna have one console, you should get a PS2. But if you want to like play that real shit, get on the GameCube.
Yeah, PS2 had the Persona 4 though.
Yeah, but Game Boy Advance has Yoshi's Island, and it's the better version of Yoshi's Island.
And I would, Tom, I would also argue that the Vita had Persona 4 Golden, and that's the better version of Persona 4.
It also has the best Tony Hawk game, which is Tony Hawk 4.
Okay, but it also has Grandia 3, which needs to dock some points, and it also has the video game tie-in to John Carpenter's The Thing, which docks several points on its own.
Dude, that game was good. Fuck
That game
you.
is
That game
dog
was good.
shit.
I like The Thing. Hey,
Revisit
tell you
it.
what, why don't we let Zach talk about the Xbox 360? Because I know Zach
save
is just,
us from
Let
this
me-
disaster.
I would take the Xbox 360 over PS2 personally. But let's get
Ooh,
back to
let
that.
me-
that's
wild.
Well, it sounds like alliances are forming, and that's what I like to hear. So let me tell you about why the Xbox 360 is my favorite of all time.
Tell me,
it
Zach, I wanna hear
It
this.
comes down to 5 letters. HD DVD. Yeah, that's right. I'm here for those fucking burgundy DVD cases.
It's the only way to get HD version of The Abyss, so maybe. All right.
I totally forgot about that. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah, no, not that. But listen, there were a lot of games that still really resonate with me from the 360 era. From first party stuff like Gears of War 1 and Gears of War 2. Gears of War 2 is still really high up for me, and Halo 3. And then there was also some weird shit that was like Lost Odyssey and The Lost Planet.
Lost
I don't know,
Odyssey is the best, not Final Fantasy of
Uh-oh.
all time.
He
we
got
lost
on.
John.
Which was the RPG that came out where they were like, we chained the moon up?
Oh, that was
Is that Resonance of Fate,
Infinite
maybe?
Undiscovery.
Infinite Undiscovery. Yeah.
That might be it.
They have Blue Dragon.
I was wondering
I
if
finished
Blue-
2 books playing Blue Dragon.
Jeff is back. I was like, I feel like I didn't say anything too controversial there.
Yeah, so I tried to mute myself so I could do something like look up 360 games, and then the whole Discord crashed very weirdly.
Okay, so can I? But my main thing beyond the games, and don't get me wrong, there were a lot of really good ones. Burnout Revenge is still one of my all times. But I also want to talk about the ecosystem that Microsoft managed to cultivate during that era, where it was, to me, one of the only home console at the time that was an evolving platform. I think that we saw a great amount of change during that time and how Xbox Live functioned. You saw the introduction of the party system, which has revolutionized the way you play with your friends.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that.
I mean, but I'll also talk about how this was the era where multi-platform games that were multiplayer were really there was one place to play that, and that was on Xbox Live. Like Call of Duty 4, yeah, it's on the PS3, but motherfucker, you were playing it on Xbox 360. Everybody was
I
playing it.
I
on
actually
Xbox
played that on
360.
PS3.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure.
you were wrong. though.
Yeah, I mean you were wrong. I mean, yeah. But we also had things like Mass Effect was originally an exclusive there.
It was.
Now correct me if I'm wrong. BioShock? Did it
BioShock
launch?
was an
BioShock launched
exclusive.
this one, yeah.
Yeah.
At,
For a while.
At first, right? I think there were some pretty compelling things. Now, you won't
Original
catch
Dead
me arguing-
Rising.
And like
Original Dead
Skyrim
Rising.
actually ran on it and would
It
not
actually
on the
worked.
PS3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like, I think the back end support, the last couple years of that console was dog shit from Microsoft. But I also think things like Halo Reach were still underappreciated gems later in that life cycle. But I think more than anything, I have a lot of appreciation for it because I think that you're right in a lot of the platforms we're talking about and the games that were being released having an impact. And I think that's true. Like, I think that 3D games revolutionized on a lot of your platforms, but I think the way that we consume, talk about, and enjoy games with our friends owes a lot to the Xbox 360.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, and I mean, like, I think having that ecosystem where you can, like, I remember like the first couple months of the Xbox 360, and people would get games, and you'd put it in your system, and you would start playing, and you would go and look at your friends list, and there was just 30 people all playing that same game, and we were all jumping from one game to the next until it kind of got a little bit more varied a few years later, and then everyone was playing all kinds of different stuff. But it's like
And then Netflix.
it was the system that like enabled those communal experiences more than anything else before it, and
Right.
even like since then we like PS4 is pretty much just trying to be an Xbox 360 in terms of its features. It is just
Yeah.
trying to do that, and that's one of the reasons it works so well and a lot of people like it so much. It's not trying to do anything more, and it doesn't do anything less. It does all that stuff really well.
Right.
And you have to have all that stuff to be a modern console now, and it was defined by the Xbox 360. But then like third-party games are so crucial these days. Like, I know like we all get like really hyped up for the first-party exclusive games, console exclusives. It's very excited to be like, you can only play it here. I paid money for the system. I'm going to get my money's worth out of the system by playing these games. But like, you can't like sort of write off how important something like an Assassin's Creed series was throughout that entire the run of that entire platform. Like Fallout, the Fallout games come out, Skyrim comes out. These are
That's
games that
right.
are just like so huge in a way that's like we don't even like think about like how we played them. They were just such huge parts of our lives. But the truth is, most people were playing them on the Xbox 360 because the Xbox 360 existed the way it did.
That's right.
Well,
Well,
and
only
very
one
good.
of these consoles had Saints Row the Third, which is a very compelling point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a fucking good video
so,
game.
so I'll say this: like when the Xbox 360 and the PS3 dropped, I was 2006 when and then
You cutting out
2005.
for me, buddy. You
Am I
understand?
cutting out?
Yeah, repeat that
You're,
for me.
you're good. Repeat
All right.
it.
All right, how about that? Is that better?
Yeah,
You're good.
you're going.
Okay, so when the Xbox 360 and PS3 dropped, I was in the Marine Corps. I was serving the military. And if memory serves me correctly, the 360 dropped in 2005 and the PS3 dropped in 2006. And I can tell you right now, around the barracks, nobody had a fucking PS3. Everybody had the 360. That was the fucking military shooter box, is what that was. And what really drew me into the Xbox 360 when I was a Marine
Was it that it wasn't $600?
but that too. Like that was a huge factor.
You'll
for
get
me.
a second job. for
I
this.
made
How
fucking
did
peanuts
the
in Marine Corps.
360 hold up in the fucking desert, considering the things melted themselves in air conditioned
I was
houses?
gonna say I want to make two more quick points before we keep going here. One, I think that fucking controller is a fucking masterpiece. And I'll go on and say I actually think the Xbox One controller is even better. But I think the Xbox
You are
360 I still think the Xbox 360's controller. I remember at the time using a DualShock and feeling like it was awful compared to an Xbox 360.
Because it was back
Sony
then,
may
especially.
never understand how to
Yeah.
design a
DualShock 4
controller.
is okay, but like the DualShock
Yeah.
3 was very bad.
The
It was
360
tough.
controller's
really
D-pad
bad.
was absolute dog shit, though.
It was
No
yeah.
joke.
No, you were
No,
right. You're right.
Yeah,
But I also
will say.
I will also say that early on the Xbox 360's weakest problem is, or its weakest point is also a testament to how good the fucking platform was, which is that I don't know a single person, myself included, that did not have at least one red ring of death, and we all fucking replaced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and so I had two red rings of death, and I replaced mine after the, and then I didn't after the second one, not because I didn't want to, but just because I couldn't afford it.
Well,
and
to be
I
fair,
just
Did not use the
happening.
warranty system. Like they extended that
I
warranty
did not.
so much.
I didn't.
You
But
guys, I hate y'all. Why that made me so mad. I'm like, everyone's like, oh, I bought another one. I'm like, I guarantee your shit's still.
so
under
to be
warranty,
fair,
dog.
Jeff, the first time our 360 died, my 360 died was in Kuwait. And it's like, okay, well, I can't
Fair
fucking, yeah. So, but what really drew me to the Xbox, like the Avatar system, is I'd never seen anything like that before.
I mean, they were
you know-
well. The Avatar, the Wii, John.
I never had a Wii.
Okay. Okay.
So like being able to customize.
The Wii doesn't have fucking Halo helmets that you can put
No,
on.
yeah,
I mean,
right,
fair enough, but there were also like five real human dollars for a Halo helmet.
I feel like the Xbox 360 did that much better.
Wait, all of you guys had a red ring?
Yeah,
I had
had
three.
one, yeah.
I did. Yeah.
I had
I
three.
never had one.
I dealt with the warranty 3 times, and like to the point where it's like, oh, but you kept going after the red ring. Well, only because I was already invested in the ecosystem and had games and saves and friends. And like once you make that decision, especially as a young person, it's kind of hard to go, fuck this,
No,
I'm switching to PlayStation.
I was late to
Well,
getting an Xbox, so I waited
that's-
until the
yeah.
Elite, and they were like,
Yeah.
"You got to get the Elite. You got to look at the box. You got to make sure it has the Falcon
Oh, I did that
motherboard
too.
on it."
Yeah. I
And that's the one I
needed
got.
the HDMI port because there was a
Yep,
little
the-
while
the
you could
Falcon
get
ones
without
had
HDMI
HDMI.
port.
You remember how
So-
the fix
Whatever,
for the
red
red ring for a while was to wrap it in a towel, and the reason for that was because it would cause it to get so fucking hot that it would start to remelt and solder itself back together temporarily. Like that's
No,
what it was.
that's-
This is a
that's
system with an
revolutionary.
external
Fix it
power
yourself.
supply, yo. It had a brick the size of its own game console, and it's still overheated.
I
Like,
will say though that I do think they handled the red ring pretty well considering
Best
how
they
big of
could.
a problem it was.
other than
yeah,
not
like,
designing
they
it like a
ate
piece
that.
of shit in the first place.
right, yeah, there was a huge blunder. They effed it up, and then what do you got to do? You eat the cost. You're Microsoft.
Yeah.
You can do it, and they did. And I
They
think
made
handled
right
it
on
pretty
their
well, and they
mistakes.
eventually got it to a point where like the system stopped doing that with like later models or whatever.
That said, I was the only person I know with an Xbox whose entire dorm had to evacuate because the brick caught on fire.
That's fucking
Okay.
So Zach, I want to point out your topic has actually caused an interesting debate in chat about
Yeah?
asymmetrical joysticks.
Motherfucker, it's better. I don't know what to tell you besides it feels like shit to go like this. I don't know what to tell you. This feels like shit. It's arbitrary. I don't know. I don't want to do it. That's all I gotta say. Like, I don't. It's in my heart, John. I don't got logic here. It's in my heart. I
No,
like them
no,
better like this.
I mean, it's
I know,
better
I'm
for
with
shooters,
Vinny.
without a doubt. It's better for shooters.
Yeah.
I think there's some games that might work better with the symmetrical joysticks.
The
but
the best way is symmetrical sticks, both in at the
No,
center. I hate
don't
to give
even-
that to Sony.
I'm
It's the
symmetrical.
only good decision they have is symmetrical towards the center. But
Okay.
but Sony's controllers are not comfortable, so it doesn't really matter. If,
I
if
would
the
argue
Xbox
that
One, if this controller had the sticks towards the center and the
No,
D-pad
man,
up
that's
here,
uncomfortable, man.
that
Actually,
shit
you're
would
wrong.
be
Yeah.
that shit would be
I agree
This is
with
all
Jack.
bad.
go
I agree
for it.
with
This
Jack.
is where my thumbs default to with my big. Oh, I mean, either way, it's fine. It could
Fucking
go any
loosen
which
your grip
way.
a little bit, man. God,
Yeah.
you're choking the
Yeah.
damn thing.
So, so we've all been through our consoles now.
Yeah. So I think we need to eliminate some shit. But it feels like SNES is obviously on the chopping block.
Look, I
I'm
love the
still-
SNES.
I'm
It's
still
so
comfortable.
obvious. It's so obvious
Ooh.
that I feel like I want to
Right.
be a bit of a hipster.
I'm still
and-
so comfortable. I'm like really uncomfortable about this, Zach. Like I
You
I
have
don't-
jumped ship 3 times,
But now I'm
motherfucker.
going back to it. I'm going back to it, Zach. I'm thinking. I'm coming back.
John,
around.
you're
No,
extremely
fuck you.
loose moral.
We already outweigh you, John. Fuck you. SNES is dead.
Wow.
So we've got
Jesus
PS2, Game Boy Advance,
Tied for number
GameCube,
2, man.
and Xbox 360. What are we chopping?
We're voting
am-
off the island.
I'm standing for the Game Boy Advance. I'm gonna go with the Game Boy Advance to stay. I want it to
Okay.
stay.
Okay.
I feel like the GBA
I mean,
is the one that has to leave, but
What's that?
I
feel like
don't.
the GBA is the one that has to leave, but it's hard.
don't.
It's not an
If you're,
easy
if you're just
choice.
looking at game library, I don't know if you actually can beat the Game Boy Advance. Even PS2, there's just so many good remakes.
Can I
so many
can I
good
counter
originals.
you though? Can I counter you? The GameCube had the fucking adapter.
Yeah, but it's not.
But
portable.
assuming you get
Yeah,
rid of the
it's not-
GBA,
Did anybody
you're
actually-
assuming you get rid of the GBA games. So
Who actually used the fucking adapter?
Me,
Who actually
because if
used
you
the
put,
adapter?
you put Fusion, if you put Metroid
play it on
Prime
the
Fusion into it, you
TV.
get the Fusion suit in Prime.
I played
And then you get
Pokemon
you can see
Ruby
the
on
Zero
my
suit sooner and
television.
See her skin tight suit, which
Yep.
was very important to me as a teenager. Yeah,
God damn it.
just joking. I knew how to use Google.
All
I'm
right.
not an idiot.
Yeah, we had
I-
Soul
I-
Calibur 2, guys. We had options.
Yeah.
I am voting for.
Should have mentioned that on the
I'm voting for
GameCube.
360 off the island.
What the fuck?
360 off the island. I'm sorry, Zach. I'm sorry, Zach.
guys,
Like,
I don't see a path forward, honestly, for any of this.
Yeah.
shit.
it's a great console, but I mean, at the end of the day, I'm thinking about first party games, and I don't think that Microsoft has anything in their first party stable that is as memorable, with the exception of Halo, that is as memorable as like a Mario or a Zelda or like or an Uncharted or God of War. Like I don't.
You are
see
forgetting
it,
the
man.
most memorable character for Microsoft, which is
Don't
the
you say
Forza
it.
car.
I thought you were gonna say Blinks, but I think I was Xbox.
Yeah,
original.
Blinks. Yeah, listen, John.
I gotta go with 360 off
It's
the
not
island,
just
man.
the
I'm
games,
sorry.
my dude. It's the ecosystem.
Zach, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, because if we're
if
if we're just talking about the games, like
It's not.
I
This
think
is the
that-
platform.
But
We're
yeah,
talking platform.
Yeah, but if you're talking about like the console, I mean, to me, Xbox 360 probably is like the best like idea of a console for me. Just the way I want games to work and the way I want the console to work, and
Listen,
friends list and all that stuff.
But
and,
did
and
it
also
work?
had
Like,
all kinds of great games on it.
Y'all are
listen, we
gonna
gotta
make me
murder off
lose.
one more thing before we go through another round. So we
gotta be
have to
360.
we have to kill PS2, we have to kill Game Boy Advance, GameCube, or 360.
I'm killing.
John
I'm killing
wants 360 gone.
I'm killing 360. I'm sorry,
Tom?
Zach.
It does feel like a swap if the Super Nintendo and the 360 are going.
What the
Yeah.
fuck?
I
Yeah.
throw my hat in against the 360.
Zach, I'm sorry, man.
Hey, I feel like I can't save it, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Zach.
It doesn't matter what I vote at this point. So
I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you.
Well,
Zach,
it's been nice, motherfuckers.
Let's not get this idea that there's a voting system because I don't want democracy to have a say here. We should definitely try to argue our way through all this
All right,
bullshit.
so Zach, what do we have left?
We've got the PS2, the Game Boy Advance, and the GameCube. It plays the same games. Portability be
I've got to. You know what? I've got to vote
My
off.
fucking PC plays all this shit. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
I know.
I've got to vote off. I got to vote off the PS2.
John,
I'm Tom. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
look Titus in the face.
I want to hear what
Why would you
No.
reference one of the worst Final Fantasy games with me, Tom? Like, why would you do that?
10 is solid.
Why would you think that would be a compelling argument for
10 is good.
Yeah,
10
10
is
is great.
middling at best?
I mean,
10 is middling best.
It's
John-
not
John-
9, which is the best
Bullshit.
one, but
John, you want it gone. If I were gonna get rid of one of these three, I'd get rid of the Game Boy Advance.
Of course you would, because you're a chud who doesn't.
I hate to
appreciate-
say it. I think that the GBA is next.
yeah, I think the
Personally.
GBA is next. As much as I love
That's
the GBA.
three.
Yeah, I love it. This is getting into hard territory.
Jeff, bring us back from the brink. We're telling you where we're
Yeah,
at. You can bring us
convince
back.
me, dude.
I mean, I just I don't know what to say other than like all the games on it are better than all the
No,
other
no.
horse shit. you guys
Listen,
have said.
here's how I tell you how to save it. You need to
Minish Cap,
pick
Mario and Luigi, Advance Wars, Metroid
Pick a
Fusion,
target.
I'm
Final
with
Fantasy
Jeff.
Tactics
Custom
Advance, which
Robo-
is better than Final Fantasy Tactics. You
There's a
shouldn't have
crossover.
Mario Kart Super Soccer, a bunch
no.
of Pokemon games
Pick
that
a
own
target.
massive, like endless,
Game Boy
like
Advance has
Jeff.
a crossover game where Spyro hangs out with Crash Bandicoot.
okay.
Listen,
That's
That's
points
better-
against.
that's better than
Points
anything we've
against.
Jeff, you need to pick a target. What is the Game Boy Advance better?
I mean,
than?
I would
Game-
get the PS2. personally like
I
that's
would-
the one
yeah.
I would.
tell me why. Just
Well, just because yes, it defined modern gaming, and I think it did it in a really boring way. I think the way that there's no way around this. The people it sold to was such a broad audience that it got a bunch of very broad games, and people should enjoy those games. That's fine, and
Jeff
broad
hates casuals.
audiences are allowed to exist. I just find it boring, and I don't necessarily love that the way it has defined modern gaming. It's just, to me, it is forgettable in a lot of ways. Like, yeah, there's God of War games on there. Okay, we kind of all got over that, and they redid it in a much better way, I guess.
Yeah. God of War was
but I
never
just-
good.
Yeah, but that's kind of how I assume. Like the Metal Gear game, it's good because it's weird, but there are weirder games out there than that. And like, yeah, I don't know. I just don't love the way it defined gaming. I think it's boring.
I have to agree with Jeff. I feel like
John's
the-
just flip flopping all over the place.
yeah, John is basically
He's been saying cut PS2.
John's agreeing with
Yeah,
whoever
I,
talks
no,
last.
I want to cut the PS2.
John-
How am I flip
John
flopping?
is just- John-
I've been very clear since
said- he
5
said
minutes
cut
ago
PS2
that I
entire
want to
time.
cut the PS2.
one thing is clear so far in that it's that John stands one thing, and that's Jeff.
I'm just because
Come to
Jeff,
daddy.
Jeff has solid taste. Jeff has good taste. I probably shouldn't stand.
Apparently, when you beat him in Overcooked, you took his fucking loyalty too.
Let's just. I mean, he was talking about the night before. Like there was some shit that went down that night. There's some secrets we have. He knows. He knows where his bread is buttered.
We don't talk about that publicly.
That's
Jeff.
right.
What we shared was just for you and me. That's it. You know.
So
And
what we're saying is that the GameCube is 100% safe from the next
Yeah.
round.
The
of
GameCube
elimination.
is safe. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's PS2 or Game Boy Advance.
No, it's PS2.
no, PS2's gone.
I think it's GBA.
But why?
Tom, where are you at? PS2 or
Let me
Game
put it
Boy?
this way: strategically, it would be smarter for me to eliminate the PS2 at this round
Hey,
for my
if I had-
position.
That sounds
If
like
I-
a pretty good reason.
Yeah,
I'm with
it-
you.
I agree.
If I had to
If I'm going to be
choose one,
morally
wipe out and
Correct.
never think about again, it would be GBA. I could wipe out the GBA from my memory.
I
and
want
be
G-
happy.
I want
Yeah, but like
GBA
you're a
dead
bad
too.
person, so that
I'm gonna
like
wipe
is
you
a
out
good
from my
thing for
memory.
the GBA.
Okay, wait. So
What
we've
was
got
it?
three people. We've got three people wanting to cut PS2, right? Like that's
Yeah, PS2's
that's it.
gone.
PS2's fucking gone. All right, motherfuckers. What do you want? Game Boy Advance or GameCube?
GameCube.
No,
Oh,
GameCube stays.
man.
GBA
GameCube.
goes. Are you
GameCube.
kidding me?
GameCube.
How do we?
No.
So I'll tell you what. I'm gonna go with GameCube here because
I'm okay with this. I'm not gonna fight back anymore.
Metroid Prime. Like that's
Oh,
what
okay,
swayed
y'all
me
are
to-
sticking. Are we cutting GameCube or standing
No,
for GameCube?
No,
Which is
Metroid
this
Prime is one of my favorite games.
Makes me
Yeah,
sweat.
I mean, I'll, we're at this point where if it's versus the GameCube versus Game Boy Advance, and you guys are all very much for the GameCube, yeah, I'm fine with that. GameCube fucking owns for sure.
Yeah,
You guys listed like so many games, and I was just like, yeah.
You
Yeah.
feel
Plus,
at least you didn't lose to
Metroid Prime
PS2.
was like the 15th game we named, and I'm like, oh, that's the best game of all time, probably. So yeah, we can go with GameCube.
Fine, GameCube. GameCube is the best game of all time. You
Yes!
heard it here, motherfucker.
I would.
So okay, fucking get Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on the goddamn line. Let's get her in here. Let's talk
I
about
would
this
actually.
shit.
Call her
I
in.
would, if somebody could please tweet her and then tag SDGC and say
God,
we
no.
respect you.
Leave her
Please
alone.
don't. Leave her be.
Please.
Maybe,
She
like,
has
all
enough
the
going on in
SDGs
life.
and her mentions.
God, that
Yeah.
was really fun.
Yeah, that was
It
so
really
good.
fun.
That was so fucking good. So I've actually
Wait,
so
can I just ask one thing about GameCube? Because listen, I'm a lot
No,
younger than
please.
y'all.
Yeah.
Did
You
y'all
are-
play? Did y'all play Return of the King on GameCube? Because that game fucking slapped. Like that's like one of the
Yeah.
last. That was like one of the
Yeah.
last.
Those Lord of the
movie
Rings tie-in
that
games
was
were
real good.
surprising.
dude, all the
Surprisingly
Lord
good.
of the
I love
Rings
that game.
movie games fucking
Yeah.
ruled.
Yeah,
Those
they
games
did, but they
fucking
did keep getting
ruled.
better though. They really
Okay,
did.
well they were kind of wilding out with Third Age a little.
The
But-
Third Age was garbage. The Third
Right.
Age that was the role playing game.
Now
the
let me
RPG.
remind you, the end of that game, you are fighting the Eye of Sauron while standing on
On
top
the
of
tower.
the Eye of Yeah, it was wild.
On the tower, and no, I remember the Third Age. It tried really hard. It tried
Yeah.
so fucking hard. But
Yeah.
those movie games, like the games based on the movies, Lord of the Rings, they were on PS2 as well, I believe. And
Well, they're
those games,
multi-plat, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dude, those games fucking slap. I
Yeah,
love
the third-party games back then, like it was like PS2 was definitely they looked the worst, and then GameCube was quite a bit better, and then Xbox was like better than that. Like
Yeah.
you would get
Yeah.
individual fingers on the Xbox, and then everything else would have like the big flappy hands.
Mitten hands,
But
right.
GameCube played all those third-party games really well. So it
Yeah,
was
it
like
did.
a fine
really
place.
fucking
Yeah,
well.
my favorite thing about that Xbox though is that you could fucking kill a man with that.
and it
No,
was
dude.
easily hackable, and everyone was doing that like right
Oh,
away.
yeah.
I just have so much loyalty for that fucking Lord of the Rings game because again, telling of my age, I was not allowed to see that movie when it came out. And so my brother bought the game and it had those fucking clips in it. It's like, well, I've basically seen it now, which is not how it works. But
I just want to point out, like in regards to Zach's age, when we did we did a co-review, and I asked Zach how old he was in 1998, and he was fucking 3 years old in 1998. So
Wow.
when I played
Yeah.
Resident
You're
Evil
my
2
little
for the first
brother's
time in 98,
age.
at 18 years old, young Zach here, strapping young lad that he is, was fucking
Mhm.
3 years old
playing on
Oh my
N64.
playing in it. Like, Tom, it's
Yep.
so depressing, man. Like, I feel so fucking aged.
I've
and-
been laying in bed staring at the ceiling all the time. I think about how I turned 30 this year and I'm like gonna kill myself.
Dude, I'm,
And
dude,
this
I'm
is
gonna be 40 next year. Don't even fucking come at
Fucking
me, dude.
goals.
Like, don't even fucking come at oh
I'm
my
thinking
God.
I'm seriously thinking about buying a minivan. That's where I'm at.
I think you should.
I
Wait,
almost
now
going
which
to, like,
one?
it's happening.
Which one?
I don't know. There's like that's a problem. Is like,
Dodge
they don't really
Ram.
make-
Dodge
I-
makes really good minivans.
I
Are we
was
about to
just-
have discourse about minivans?
Fuck yes, we
Because
are.
that's
Podcast,
not
I already
doing-
know what the best
Okay, so
video console is.
I
What?
was
It's the
just at
Honda
auto
Odyssey,
show.
fucking clearly, okay? Like,
I was just at the
Yeah,
Detroit
yeah.
Auto Show this week. I saw the new Pacifica, 83 miles per gallon equivalent. That's
What?
you
Really?
can't fucking
That's
yeah, you
a
can't
lie.
beat that.
All
that's
right.
a lie. That
I'm
can't
sure,
be
but it's got to be
real.
like $70,000, right?
But
Like
is it a more fun
Mm.
ride than my 2002 Honda Civic Coupe?
which shakes
smells
when he
better.
changes gears.
What's the fun factor on that shit?
Yeah.
though?
Yeah.
All right, so let's
Can I-
talk a
can I
little bit
fit-
more about Resident Evil 2 or what?
So
Yeah,
I
sure.
actually
Yeah, let's
so,
talk about
so,
Resident Evil 2.
so on the topic of Resident Evil, so right before we went live, I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but apparently it is leaked that a Resident Evil TV series is coming to Netflix.
No.
And
No.
this is
No.
what it
Keep it.
I
this
don't
is
feel
what it
good.
says. This is what it says. Resident Evil is headed to television. I have learned that Netflix is developing a scripted series based on the hit action horror franchise. I hear the series will be a Netflix global original. German production and distribution company Constantin Film, which is behind the Resident Evil movies. Loosely based on the Capcom.
Yeah, Constantine owns the rights.
Is the
Look,
studio.
Let's get into sad Derek mode here, okay? Here's the problem, all right? Here's the problem. I don't trust literally fucking anything Resident Evil that is in the game right now.
You know what?
They give us no details. I have no way to trust. Unless they are just fucking doing Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, Code Veronica, like that shit in series format, then I don't care.
I guess I don't. Is the Resident Evil lore like this holy to you?
I mean, like, the
I think it's
characters
I think
and
it's
the
just-
creatures and the events, like, it's not, like, putting it as lore is a little self-serious, but, like...
Right, yeah. I mean, yeah.
But,
fair
like,
enough.
to me, it's really frustrating to have watched all of these really shitty and they're not
They're
good,
really
y'all.
bad.
The first
Nobody-
one's a fun action movie.
The
It's
first one's
the
not
best.
bad.
It has
I
that
will
scene
give
with the
first
laser
one.
grid and it turns him into meat cube.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I fucking love that scene.
But the Resident Evil movies are bad movies that tremendously disrespect the games and the characters.
I mean, you're
that are
describing
in
every
them.
video game, movie, or show.
That's, I mean, that's
Prince of Persia.
true,
The
but that
Max
doesn't...
Payne
Oh
movie
my
was
God.
loyal.
I mean, yeah.
Didn't
but
the
I mean,
Max Payne movie have weird shadow Valkyrie
it
creatures?
was not. No, it was not. It was not accurate
Yeah.
at all.
No.
But
no.
but like I just want to see like Jill and Chris and Leon, and Barry and Rebecca and like hunters and lickers and tyrants and shit in a way that I want the stuff that I liked about the games to be on screen, and the movies were not. I don't want it to take the DNA of the movies, and I fear that that's what will happen because
sure.
the DNA of
I
the movies
almost
is bad.
guarantee you, Derek, that that's exactly what's going to happen.
Which
It's
is
the same
why I'm
production
not
company.
excited. Which
Can
is why
I-
I'm not
the only
excited at all.
the only good video game movie actually is Super Mario Brothers the movie. It really is at this point. And
Wow.
because it's
Wow.
so buck wild. It is so it doesn't give a shit. It is just going to be this mass hallucination that these people decided to film, and it's I don't know. It owns.
That's a
actually.
zesty fucking take, Jeff.
Yeah.
Can I-
Go
can I-
back
can
and
I
try
find
it
out?
again. Go
Can
in
I
and be
say
like,
something?
imagine if you hated Mario and then watch that movie, you'll like that movie because it's actually good.
Wow. Ooh.
I mean, I love Mario, but like I can get in that mood where I'm
Hit
like,
it-
yeah,
hit
fuck
us,
Mario.
Zach.
Let's watch Super Mario Brothers. the
Holy
movie.
shit.
I have something zesty in the realm of Resident Evil. I think Tyrant / Mr. X is shit. I think that's a bad enemy.
I think
Yeah,
you're,
you know what?
I think
He
you're a bad
looks-
person.
He looks dumb as hell, but he still gives me the fucking.
He
creeps
scares the
of my
fucking
goddamn
I will
No,
shit
say-
out
no,
of me.
aesthetically he's a creep. He looks like a pervert.
He does.
That is exactly
What if?
it.
What?
That's
Yeah,
it. That's
no,
what it is.
yeah.
It looks like he was definitely made by a pervert.
When-
Like,
when
no
Mr.
offense to whoever made him.
When
but he's
Mr. X
made by a
catches
pervert.
you, he doesn't punch you. He just coat, and it's an insta kill.
Okay.
You die
Yeah.
immediately.
Don't like that. But I'm just saying his encounters are bad.
No, they're not. No.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
I
No,
will say this.
no.
I said this in our review. It's really not a spoiler because it's a fucking 21-year-old game. Unkillable enemies are the most dated fucking thing about Resident Evil. Like,
See, and
But
yet
you
that's one
can-
of the
you can-
things that
you can easily-
if it's not overdone, I actually really like that in certain horror games. Like I liked Alien Isolation, and the best parts of the original Evil Within to me
Well-
were dealing with like Laura, and the Keeper wasn't invincible necessarily, but you dealt with him like he was an invincible enemy, basically.
but Alien Isolation's unkillable enemies work because if you do enough damage, they fuck off. Right? like the Tyrant is like, no, I'm here, and I got my
you
weird
put
hat.
enough damage
I
in him,
was
and he gets out on his knee, and you go do what you want to do. I don't know. I thought it worked.
Christian
I got a question
ARG.
about-
Christian ARG in chat says when he gets to you, he will slide in your DMs.
Christian,
God.
fucking go finish my bridge, motherfucker. Sorry, he's playing in my eco game.
I got
Go
a
finish
question
my
about-
bridge.
I just want so like I don't know. I
Tom
thought
has something to say.
Oh, I'm
John.
sorry. Jesus Christ, please, Tom.
So, how do you guys feel about them making the Tyrant into more of a roaming enemy as
I'm fine
opposed to
with
just
it.
like
It's a good
sequences?
move. It's a good move.
like
I
that.
think.
Yeah, it
I
works.
thought that was
I
a
think it
cool
works
move.
really. Yeah,
I think
it's
one of the
only
best
that
parts
whole-
of Resident Evil 7 was that Jack Baker actually like roams the mansion for a chunk, and that made exploration of old parts feel tense because even though I'd already explored them and dealt with most of the enemies, I knew there was a chance I'd turn the corner and that old redneck would be there ready to hit me with
So
a fucking shovel.
No, the footsteps are like a really effective because
Yeah,
like
that's
you,
so the
and-
footsteps. the footsteps are what fucking works for me because
Yes.
people are like, Mr. X is scary. When I look at that motherfucker, like I'm
No,
like I'm
he's not.
actually annoyed more than anything. I'm like,
I actually think
God,
he's the
I gotta
least.
go around. I have to find a
like
fucking object.
This
to run
bouncer
around.
motherfucker trying to kick me out of the bar is
He's
coming
the
at
Right.
me.
least effective and like
He's annoying.
interesting looking design of all of the like tyrant style enemies. The original tyrant, the nemesis are both so much better than Mr. X. Mr. X
I don't
is
think
just a big
Nemesis
crazy-
is terrifying at all. Like
Nemesis is oh my god.
no,
well,
I think
we're gonna-
Nemesis looks like he just looks goofy. Like that is like Resident Evil character design done to excess. Like I love the simplicity of Mr. X. Right, he's just a fucking creepy bald dude in a trench coat,
which
who's-
is basically you.
which is exactly me. Like that's
basically you.
just a Saturday night.
That's
for me.
what I was
but
seeing. That's
I-
what I was seeing when I was playing the game. Yeah.
So Mr.
That's
X
what
is
you saw at
at
PAX West.
Mr. X is at his best, and this is only a spoiler if you haven't been playing the demo. Is at his best on that fucking stairwell, the three floor stairwell, in the fucking police station
Yeah,
when you're trying, because the way the fucking sound works in that game, he's oh god, I mean I hate him, but like he's spooky.
But so like so Zach, I have a question, right? Like you love Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7 is your, if I'm not mistaken.
I like Resident Evil 7. Yeah. it's a good game.
So what are your feelings on Jack Baker in that game then? Because he's basically the same thing as Mr. X. So I guess I'm just wondering like
except scarier looking. I'm
yeah,
much more
well,
terrified
I don't
of
think he's all that scary looking. He's an
I'm
old-
much more terrified of a swamp redneck than I am a large dude in a trench coat. Let's be clear.
Well, so Jack Baker goes down for more than like 5 seconds at a time, right? Like when you put, and I think that makes him a more effective, scarier enemy. Like when you put Jack Baker down, I always felt like, and maybe my memory is deceiving me, it feels like he's down for like 15 to 30 minutes of real world time. Like it always felt like it was, and like maybe I'm fucking
Like
dreaming.
you actually bought breathing room.
Yeah. Whereas here, like Mr. X, like you can go to the next room and then you hear that pounding around.
But I
like-
feel like the reason they did that, and maybe I don't know, maybe Jeff and Tom will disagree, but I feel like the reason they did that in the police department, there's a lot more room to maneuver and avoid Mr. X than in the Baker Mansion, which is basically just like a couple
Maybe.
of skinny
I
hallways.
also feel that the Baker was way more aggressive.
He is super aggressive. Yeah,
Yeah. You could put Mr. X down, and if you time it right, if you like, mostly if you're just running from him, trying to get away, get your stuff done on the side of the mansion that he's on, or the side of the police station that he's on, and you're on at that time, and then you're like, okay, now I'm going to put him down. He goes down, and you go run to the other side and start exploring the other stuff, and like really take your time and plan your attacks like that. You can get so far away from him that you do actually end up buying.
Yeah,
quite a
the
lot of
Baker
time.
Mansion is so
Yeah.
tightly confined and has so like few rooms and hallways that Jack Baker is always only right there. As opposed to, from what I'm hearing, the size of the police station area in that like you deal with a lot of Mr. X as a roaming enemy. Fuck me, Resident Evil 2 doesn't have hunters. I'm really disappointed. I just realized that.
So
It's one of my favorite
uh,
Resident Evil enemies, and I was like, oh, I'm so excited to see them, and oh shit, they're
Imran
in
in
1 and
chat-
3.
Imran in chat, he says Bagman better than every other dude. I think he's referring to Dr. Salazar. In
No,
Resident
he's
Evil
referring
4.
to the weird bag creature in Resident Evil 4 that you can open the dumpster and there's a dude in a bag that is horrifying.
Oh, I remember. Oh, yeah. Okay,
I'm
fuck.
probably wrong. He's probably
Dude
talking
in a
about
bag
this
sounds
Chainsaw
like
Man.
a garbage pail kids ripoff.
Dude in a bag. Dude in a bag is my
Dude in a bag.
Alice in Chains
Hell man, let's
cover
go back to
band.
Dude in a Bag. Yeah.
So like, I don't know. Like I have no problem. I really like the way they, and like Mr. X, like, and what's interesting is that he did something for me that I know that he didn't do for Zach. Like he burst through a wall for me. Like he punched through
What?
a fucking wall. It was down by the. Well, I
Are we
won't say
spoiling
where.
a lot of this
Don't
game now?
spoil.
Yeah. I won't say where it is, but he came through a fucking wall at me, Zach. Like,
But
and
it's something that
apparently
he did for one person that he didn't do for another. So that tells
Apparently,
you
he
that,
didn't
like,
do that for Zach.
He's pretty.
Well, I might be
flexible.
wrong. I mean, like I felt, again, I don't want to get anywhere near spoiler territory for this game, but like I feel like this game has much more scripted events than Resident Evil 7. Like for Jack Baker in Resident Evil 7, he can always punch through that wall in the kitchen at any time throughout that playthrough. But I mean maybe he did. I don't know.
He punched through. I mean, Mr. X came through a fucking wall, man. And
No,
I feel like
he definitely did for me. Yeah.
So it's probably a scripted event. I don't know.
I mean,
So-
it's probably like you have a lot of pathing options. Once
Yeah.
especially 30 minutes, 40 minutes after you meet Mr. X, you're going to have a
Ooh.
bunch of different options of like where you're going to go down the halls. And so
Yeah.
I think there's a specific one that probably is the same place where he broke through the wall.
Guys,
But there's probably multiple of those, to be fair.
we got a really good question in chat from Glorious War. What do you guys think should get an RE2 like remake?
So
Crisis.
Resident Evil
Dino
3,
Cri-
Resident
I'm all
Evil
about
3
some Dino
needs to
Crisis.
come first. If I don't get Resident Evil 3
I
soon,
fucking-
like off the backs of RE2, I'll be really upset. But then after that, like there's no excuse not to revisit Dino Crisis. Dino Crisis has got to come back. And I'm not just saying that because Jaw Muncher has reprogrammed my brain after
So I wanna come
hundreds
back
of
to it.
years.
I think this is a great question. We're going to come back to it, but I do want to address something that Imran said. He said, and I agree with him. He said, one reason I like Jack more than Mr. X is because Jack liked fucking with you. And that's true. Like Jack would yell at you throughout the mansion. And it's freaky. He's like,
More
oh,
personable.
when I find you, boy. And it's just like, oh God, no.
Everything
No,
I'm
no, no,
terrified
no,
of
no,
rednecks about.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a
Dude,
Kentucky
if there's-
boy, so
If there's an old swamp ass redneck running through a house telling you, I'm gonna find you, and when I do, like I know I'm not
I've
living
seen
that life,
Deliverance.
but I don't know. Like I would love to see a remake of Parasite Eve.
Ooh,
That'd be good.
I mean,
You
it wouldn't be
know, like-
Capcom, but you know,
I don't think it has to be Capcom, right? Like,
Yeah,
like
just
we're
the
talking
idea of
about-
this idea.
Yeah, just like the idea of like a PS1 era, remake. Like, take Parasite Eve and give it like that run and gun Resident Evil Revelations 2 gameplay.
Yeah.
And like keep that. Oh man, that would be fucking fantastic. I'd love that.
I
I'd
really
to see
love
something like that.
Parasite Eve. It's
I
tremendously
fucking love that
underloved.
game so much, dude. I don't know, Jeff. What about you, man? If you had to pick a fucking game to remake like Resident Evil 2, dude.
I don't know. I'm terrible like recalling stuff like this from the past that I would want to bring forward. So I don't know. I mean, Capcom's got you guys mentioned like Dino Crisis, stuff like that would be good. I don't know. What I'm curious about, like, do you think that they're going to remake Resident Evil 4 again or like re-release it again? I
Can
know they
I-
do it every 6 months,
So
but I mean,
here's
I
my
think
thing.
they will.
I think that they are going to put off remaking that fucking game because they know they can just port the old ass Xbox 360 port
I'll keep
to
buying
every
it.
console, and people will keep buying it.
Maybe
I'll keep
that's
buying it.
that's
But
true too.
If
You
they
can't
remade
remake
Resident Evil 4, people
It's
would lose their
new
fucking
enough and
shit.
recent enough that it holds up well in a way that a lot of games before it do not.
I hear what you're saying.
It's the
but I
same thing with
constantly-
Final Fantasy X. Like 10 is not going to get remade. 7, 8, 9 may eventually get remade. 10 will not get remade because Final Fantasy X is already good enough for future generations.
So I'll tell you right now, I fucking guarantee you, Resident Evil 3 is coming. I think that's a
Oh,
given.
almost certainly.
I-
As
I-
good as
and-
Resident
and-
Evil 2 is about to do, absolutely.
And I honestly, dude, like the way that people, because like what happened when the Switch released? Like almost immediately, people were begging for Resident Evil 4 on the Switch. I mean they were like, I was one of them. Please let me play Resident Evil 4 on the go. There's something about that fucking game that is just, and I wrote an article about this on our Medium page, that is just absolutely timeless. And it's the pacing in that game. The pacing is everything. And Resident Evil 4, Jeff, has some of the best. I think we can all agree, has some of the best pacing in any game.
Mhm.
In
I think
history.
it's the game that like taught me about pacing in video games, that made me realize like, oh, games should be like a lot more varied than they have been up to this point. Like
Yeah.
you should be like doing some very specific stuff in some specific locations for 2 hours maybe at the
Brilliant
most, and then it
pacing.
should change up, and you should be doing slightly different stuff in a very different location.
Brilliant level
And that game
design,
just
brilliant
did
enemy
that
design.
Boom, 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 boom until the very end, and that's one of the reasons why people loved it so much, because it wasn't just like 6 hours of power where you're just going to be doing this same thing for quite a bit of time. It's like, a little bit longer than that, and you're doing a lot of different stuff all throughout that playthrough. It's very good.
Well, I mean, Resident Evil 4 changed the game in so many ways. I love talking. Like what we had been used to in Resident Evil at that point was just zombies shambling toward you, and you get either run away or try to pop them in the head, or like you had very limited options as to how those encounters were going to go. But when you first encountered the Ganados in Resident Evil 4, they were
That
talking
village,
to
that
you.
open fight is
That villager was talking to you, and then he picks up a weapon, and then they're ducking and weaving, and they're trying to
I
get out of
played
the way
that
of the
demo
bullets.
100 times probably. The demo for that came out before that game. I just played it nonstop because I just couldn't get enough of that whole fight.
But like the moment in Resident Evil 4 that sticks with me the most is when you first get to Pueblo, when you actually make it to the village and sit there and watch just all these all those villagers going about their daily routine in like this really herky-jerky, stilted kind of manner. It's clear that there's something wrong with, they're all fucked up, but they're still like doing their shit. And then when you shoot at them and they come at you, they're pulling out weapons, they're coordinating, they're trying to move out of the way your bullets. Like, dude, that freaked me out more than any fucking zombie in any Resident Evil game. and it was and I don't know, like Resident Evil 4 was just really something special, and like, yeah, like after playing Resident Evil 2, or like after playing anything after Resident Evil 4, yeah, it feels archaic to play today. Because and I get that the whole system was built around stationary immobile shooting. Like I understand that, like that's how the game works. But the pacing of that game is something that I still think to this day really hasn't been replicated. And hasn't really been, like, that game just perfected it. And I feel like every single game after that, especially in the Resident Evil series, has just been trying to play catch up to Resident Evil 4.
I'm gonna hit you with something, John. Do you remember, as somebody who played all the Resident Evil games, all right, playing Resident Evil 4 for the first time, right? You got done with, I think it's right after you fight Del Lago for the first time, the creature in the lake.
In the lake.
And it's dark and it's raining and you've got to make your way back up the path, back through the church. And then you hear the first wolves howl.
Oh, the
and
dogs.
You go, fuck,
Oh.
Resident Evil has dogs. What are parasite dogs gonna be like? And then you got to deal with them leaping out of the darkness and turning into John Carpenter's The Thing in front of you.
No.
That is some fucking moment right there, man.
My moment was worse because I stopped, because you got to jump across the gaps.
Yeah.
I stopped and I stayed there and I pulled out my sniper rifle and zoomed in to try to see what I could see, and I just see this fucking dog with worm shit coming out of its back, standing perfectly still, staring at me in the darkness. And I was like, dude, I stayed on that bridge for like 10 fucking minutes. I was like, nope, I ain't fucking doing it. I ain't fucking doing it. There's no goddamn way.
Man, that game is so much fun to just keep going, though. That's like, I was never great with horror games, but that one, it made you feel powerful enough that you're like, I could keep going. I'm going to keep going forward. This is going to be just fine.
And it was a meaty game. Dude, that game was like, a 16-hour playthrough. Like Resident Evil 4 was a decently sized game.
With constantly new enemies, new environment styles, tossing reasonably differentiated weapons at you to switch around between, like.
And you know what? It's on the best console of all time.
It is on the best console of all time. I mean, though technically it's on every fucking.
Well, that's true. Well, that means that we're not wrong. It is on the best console of all time.
I still think that Resident Evil 2 is the remake is a better game than 4. But I will say this: if we're getting back to the topic of games that we want to see remade, I would love to see not just Parasite Eve, but like a Dino Crisis come back. I mean, or Onimusha. Like, there's so many Capcom games I would love to see come back. Or Power Stone. The
Onimusha game that they're doing is just an HD re-release.
Darkstalkers.
Right? Yeah.
So
there'll be a new Onimusha. I think.
Has anybody else here played the HD remaster of Onimusha?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, you know what? If you're gonna get it, I would recommend getting it on Twitch. That's where I have it. And I've played it docked, and it doesn't hold. Like, it is a very bare bones HD remaster. Like, it does not look.
It's a PS2 game. I mean,
we played it on. We recorded on PS4 Pro in the office, and it still doesn't look great there. Like, it still looks like a kind of like similar. Remember the Final Fantasy X PS4 ports?
Yes,
kind of like that.
Yeah, but like objectively worse. Like, it doesn't like. It just doesn't hold up well. It's mitigated somewhat on the small Switch screen undocked, but aside from that,
it also feels incredibly dated.
Yes, it does. Yeah, like it's a fun game to replay, and I love 2 style remake done with that. But the game itself just like doesn't hold up anywhere near as well as something like a Resident Evil 4 does.
No,
so it's disappointing.
But there's potential to be reinvented.
Yeah, I'd like to see like them to like for the next game to take it more down the path of like being a sequel to Resident Evil 4 in the way that it, and not be 5 or 6. Like, try to figure out what 4 was without being 5 and 6. In the way that like Resident Evil 2 feels like, it could just as well be a sequel to the original Resident Evil 2, and the way that 7 feels like a sequel to PT or whatever. I know that's not exactly the right lineage, but that's what definitely feels like. I would like to see them like bounce back between these various ideas of what Resident Evil could be.
Yeah. So here's a question for the whole group, and this is a good one to end with. So Resident Evil 2, I think, is going to do incredible. I think it's.
You are cutting out real bad, John.
Yeah, John. I don't know what's up with your mic, buddy.
I think he's probably got the cutoff for the voice thing. So
is that okay?
Is
that better? Right into it.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Okay.
Yep, you're good.
So I think that Resident Evil 2 is going to sell really well. I think we're going to get a Resident Evil 3. What I'm curious about is, are we going to get a Resident, like, we're like 8? Are we
Yeah,
gonna get a?
they're gonna
Oh.
do
We'll get
something
Resident
different
Evil 8.
next. They'll I think that's what they're doing right now. I think they got
Yeah.
7. They're doing this remake, and now the next thing might not necessarily be a follow up to 7. They'll get back around to doing a follow up to 7, but I think they're going to do something slightly different, like in the next 2 years or whatever.
See, but I think that we will continue to see them jump back and forth to please their two audiences between survival action and survival horror.
It does create an opportunity. Like, why not just do something with a different series? Like, why not get Dino Crisis in there? It does feel like they should
absolutely.
probably do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I just mean, I think that they are like courting. I think that I like them both, but I think that Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 7 have the potential to court two different audiences that might not always like the same shit.
Yeah, like I'm right way into this Resident Evil 2 remake. I don't like the style of game that 7 is. Like, it's not my type of
okay,
thing.
and I think Capcom's totally okay with that.
Yeah.
No, so I think it's totally smart for them to court two different types of audiences for their games.
And John, you're talking about the sales of this game, and I think it's important to remember that like Resident Evil 7, like Capcom was up front, like it didn't sell as well as they wanted to, especially early on. It might have made it up over time.
I
But, like,
think
early on.
I bet, but Zach, I think some of that had to do with over realistic expectations.
But it wasn't just that. It was following Resident Evil 6, which sold very, very well, but was received really poorly.
Yeah, well, and
Well,
like
that
it
goes
sold
back
well
to the whole
initially, but
thing
it
where
kind of
like a game that's not well received in a series, like especially after the end of a long string, it tends to affect the next game
one, yeah.
more than
Right.
anything. Resident Evil 6's bad reputation was going to affect Resident Evil 7, and it's
And
amazing.
now, Resident Evil 7's good reputation is going to affect Resident Evil 2.
Yes.
Well, and I also feel like there was just a lot more hype over Resident Evil 2 because that's just a fucking beloved game by many, many people.
Well, you look at the footage, like you see the footage of people blowing holes in zombies and then they fall over and then they pull themselves in half trying to crawl after you. That's impressive stuff. Like that's the kind of stuff that even if it's really not as like procedural or whatever as people want to think it is, it's the kind of stuff that people see and go, wow, holy shit, this is going to be so cool.
I mean, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I saw those gifts. I need to start doing that to like conserve the ammo I keep running out of. I don't need to kill these things. I just need to like put them on the ground and run around them. And it's like serves that gameplay purpose in a way that becomes very memorable.
Versus 7, all of the promo footage of 7 was walking around in spooky environments. There wasn't a lot of combat.
It's exactly
stuff
what
to
Jeff
show.
said, right? I think they were working on this long before PT, but they saw what was popular about PT and following its cancellation, and they coattailed it, which I mean, no fault to them.
So I guess like, do you guys think that Resident Evil 8, whenever it happens, do you think it's going to be, you're going to go back to the third person over the shoulder stuff?
I think new installments will be first person, remakes will be what we're seeing. But
I think they will find a way to keep making all of these games in different ways. If they run out of remakes, they'll just find a side series for the over the shoulder, or if they have to, they will just make a Resident Evil 8 or 9 be the over the shoulder thing. I think the better thing here would probably be like, throw Dino Crisis in there. There's enough fandom there, and you can build on top of that, and you can get people being like, oh, what is this series?
Well,
this is like Dinosaur Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Resident Evil games.
Exactly.
I played that 2 remake and I really loved it. Like people will get on board with that pretty quickly, and especially if it's like, this is our action series now, and Resident Evil's going to be our spooky series, and there's a ton you can do there.
I think Resident Evil 8, whether or not it's first person or third person, is not really the important part of the conversation. Compared to, they're clearly going to look at 7 was a correction from what people complained about 6, and 7 landed much better, but didn't do quite enough with its combat. Enemy variety was really stilted.
You just had the mold.
It didn't really have quite as much. So then the 2 remake feels in a lot of way like them looking back at 7 and going, okay, here's what we did right, but here's what people wanted more of, and here's what was great about 2. Let's do that. So whenever 8 comes along, they're going to look at what they did with 7, they're going to look at what they did with the 2 remake, and they're going to try to go for the best things that people liked about both. And whether or not they actually succeed at finding the best elements of both of those games is another story entirely. But I think whether or not the camera's first or third person means a lot less than like the pacing of the encounters, enemy variety, weapon variety, stuff like that, than whether or not the camera's here or here.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thought.
Well, I think we need to start wrapping up here.
Yeah.
Because we're pushing hard against our we got a hard 10:30 stop date tonight. So I'll tell you what, guys, I think we did pretty good. There was fucking nothing that happened in gaming news made
Yeah,
an hour
'cause
and
we just circle
work,
jerked
so-
for an hour and a half. It was great.
it's fucking drinks all around as far as I'm concerned.
You know, we fought. We all had to cut some consoles that we love, but you know, I think I love you guys more after the end of it for sure.
I also think
Yeah,
can we also the Xbox 360 elimination? I'm fine to let it die, but we killed it first round.
I know.
No, I thought we
you're
killed
right,
Super
you're right.
Nintendo first.
It actually probably is the best console. I'm with you.
I thought we
gonna
killed
hear-
Super Nintendo.
Let's go back.
first.
Let's do it.
Zach's gonna send me a DM after this podcast. I know he is.
I'm devastated.
We'll do some quick, very quick housekeeping. Don't forget, next week we have a returning guest on, and then we're gonna be guestless for a few weeks, kind of focus on the group a little bit. But next week we have Steve Spawn from Able Gamers coming on again. So really looking forward to having Steve on. As everybody knows, I've got a great amount of respect for him and all the work he does for disabled gamers.
It's a good boy right there.
He's a
alright.
that's a good man. That's a good fucking man right there. Jeff, dude, this is your first appearance on the podcast. Are you willing to come back on at some point?
Fuck no, you kidding me?
I expect this. I
No,
expect
yeah,
this.
this is great, guys, for sure.
You
I
made him give
expect
up the
this.
Game Boy Advance. Go fuck yourself,
Yeah.
John.
And I
Play
fucking
my Game Boy.
I fucking know Tom will probably be back on in a few weeks. So whatever.
Can't
Like
keep it
Tom,
away.
Tom, I
Can't
know
get
you're
it
coming
away.
back.
Tom, why the fuck did we not talk about pizza tonight, bud?
Oh, shit.
Soon enough.
Soon
Nah.
enough.
Next time.
I ate like a whole DiGiorno today, man. I fucked that thing.
Good man.
I just want you to
Good
know,
It's not
Jeff,
even
man.
good pizza.
Doesn't
Yeah, it
matter.
doesn't matter.
There's no
Zach-
bad pizza.
Zach stands for onion and feta pizza.
I take
we'll
it
get
back.
into
There's
that
one
later.
bad pizza.
We'll get into that
Fuck
later.
y'all.
But yeah, at any rate, oh, it looks like is the stream still going? Are we?
Yeah, why would we
Yeah,
not be streaming?
Before,
We
it's-
didn't
it's-
stop.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hey,
this-
before we go,
oh,
listen,
we're back. We're back.
Jeff and Tom, thank you guys for being here. I'm sure everyone who's here already follows you anyway, but just in case, tell them where they can.
He's that Tom Johnson on Twitter. And what am I, Tom?
You're at Jeff Grubb, right?
That's perfect. Yeah. That's
You can also
exactly
I'm also that Tom Johnson on Twitch, where I'm gonna be streaming that dumb eco game.
right.
Yeah, don't
do it,
forget,
man.
no
Do it.
blood for
you
grub
gotta
oil.
just get in the Discord, talk with us, and listen to my orders. And I'm twitch.tv/JeffGrubb, where I will be doing the same. Also on twitch.tv/GamesBeat. Both of those probably.
No blood for grub oil. That's all I got.
Maybe some blood though. We're gonna need that oil, motherfucker. We're gonna need it. If you're part of this group, we're gonna need that shit.
Oh, I've heard some things about some oil, so
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
yeah.
All right,
You guys should
everybody.
find- if you don't understand what we're saying, just follow, like he said, like, go check out our Twitch streams. We'll probably be streaming tonight.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week with Steve Spawn. Take care of each other.